Okay, we set. So today I'm going to show you the vocal chain for Anna Hart. So this song is called Bamukabene, featuring Chester. So here's the vocal.
Awe tini typing ini nimbi quality ndatina fight abantu barasonterera bakanitane ule chifukwa cha Bamukabene nikasaba nikene bakanipandure bene bakanipeza bakanipandurene tini typing Dane diaper.
Yeah, so here's a quick one. So we're going to start with the first verse. So here's the first. Yeah. So if we go to the vocal verse, this is the lead verse. As you can see, there's a lot of things happening here. So we have the Pro EQ 3. We have the deesser here. We have the 2A here, the SSL channel, the C6, the RD deesser, the C1 compressor, then the Fab filter Pro Q3. Yeah. So then over here we have the sends. We have the CLA 76, the decapitator, the delay, the reverb, and the Valhalla reverb. So the first thing that I'll show you is the Q3. Of course, every time you're doing the vocal chain, you start with the EQ. Cut off the unnecessary frequencies. So if I solo this, let me completely remove the rest of the stuff. Let me also remove the sends. So we have the Q here. If we play it blank, it sounds like this. So if we add the Pro Q3, of course, we cut here around 300. Then there's also 534. Then also the dynamic here at 957. Then I also pumped up the about the 12K here, that is in the middle, because I wanted the vocal to penetrate through the mix. So if I add the Q3 here, the next thing is the deesser. Yeah, I always do deesser before everything else, and I always do deesser after I add all my effects. So we have the deesser here. I was cutting at 4K. That's where I was doing the deessing. That's where she was doing a lot of aces. Without. Then with. Yeah, so there's always that tabbing that goes on. The next thing that I did was the 2A. This is the compressor. So without the compressor, then with. Okay, so we're just bringing down those poke outs that are coming, those poking waves that are going through the mix. So the next thing that I did was the SSL channel. So the SSL channel, basically what I did is add some presence to the vocals. So I did raise the 4K here. Oh, let's start from the top. So I did cut at 70K, at 70. Then I did raise 14K, around 14K, 13, somewhere there, to add that presence. Then also reduced at 3.5, somewhere there. Yeah, 3.5. Reduced it a bit to reduce those irritating resonances, and of course I had to put it at narrow effect, and also I had to reduce here at low mid frequencies to reduce a bit. Then also I had to cut at 60 to focus on the between 60 and 100. And here I didn't do anything. If you come here, I did some compression as well. Of course, threshold needs to be, I always put it at -2. Did the compression. I never tampered with the gate. Yeah, I never tampered with the gate, and I never tampered with the output. So without the SSL,
Shindana Bamukabene, Bamukabene, kupe mashika pamubili wavene,
then with
Shindana Bamukabene, Bamukabene, kupe mashika pamubili wavene,
Then the next thing that I added was the C6. Yeah, so the C6 I would say it just kills those pokes that are added from the SSL. So it just kills those pokes. So without
Shindana Bamukabene, Bamukabene, kupe mashika.
Then with
Shindana Bamukabene, Bamukabene, kupe mashika.
Yeah, so you can observe that the vocal is settled and basically trying to blend with the mix. The next thing that I added as well is another de-esser. Okay, the de-esser basically cuts the SS that builds up from the effects that I added. So here's the de-esser.
Bamukabene, Bamukabene, kupe mashika pamubili wavene.
So as you can see, it's just tiny added to the vocals. So basically that's what it does, especially when she hits those hard sections. You need to term those S's. So next effect, it is C1. C1 basically it glues the vocal. So basically it's you can use a limiter if you want, but I prefer C1 compressor. It works more or less like a clipper. Yeah, so it glues the vocal together. So here's without.
Shindana Bamukabene, Bamukabene, kupe mashika pamubili wavene.
Here's with.
Shindana Bamukabene, Bamukabene, kupe mashika pamubili wavene.
So as you can see, the reduction is just below 0. I would say -1 to 2 dB reduction here.
Shindana Bamukabene, Bamukabene, kupe mashika pamubili.
Yeah, so the reason why I did -1 is because there was a preamp used when recording these vocals, so no much of compression was needed, but you need to term the vocal, glue things together with a limiter of some kind or a clipper. So the last thing that I added was the Q3. Yeah, so the Q3 basically I was cutting off the rumbling that was building up from the effects that I was adding. Basically, that was it.
Shindana Bamukabene. Bamukabene. Kupe mashika
Yeah.
pamoja.
So there was a lot of melodic involved. There was a lot of bass, low end samples that were used. So you don't want the vocal to be competing with those instruments. So basically, you cut off anything that is below 90. Then finally we go to the sends. So with the sends, I did a parallel compression with the 76. Personally, I don't use 76 on my main insets. I use 76 on my sends. And with 76, what I basically do is I boost it to 100%. The input is always 100%. Fast release, then half attack. So without,
Shindana Bamukabene. Bamukabene.
then with,
Shindana Bamukabene. Bamukabene. Kupe mashika pamubili wavene. Awete ine typing. Ine nimbi quality.
mouse. Hello? Yeah. Then the next one is decapitator. So decapitator basically is saturation. Added saturation, making the vocal more wide and big, and adding those harmonics. So
Shindana Bamukabene. Bamukabene. Kupe.
Without.
Shindana Bamukabene. Bamukabene.
With.
Shindana Bamukabene. Bamukabene. Kupe mashi.
Yeah, so that's the decapitator. Then we added the delay.
Shindana Bamukabene. Bamukabene. Kupe mashika pamubili wavene.
Yeah, so with my delays, a lot of producers add more delay, but on this track, it's not always that you add a lot of delay. Me, I added delay that was settled because of the instrumentation that I use. I love using a lot of samples. I love using a lot of instruments. So you don't want to crowd, you don't want to crowd the mix with delays and other stuff. The next thing that I added was a reverb. So here's a reverb.
Shindana Bamukabene. Bamukabene. Kupe mashika pamubili wavene.
Yeah, so basically the reverb, this first reverb, there's the first reverb and the second reverb. The first reverb, it's a plate reverb. So what the plate reverb does, it focuses on the near fields. Okay, then there's a long reverb that focuses on the wider areas. So with plate reverb, it focuses on the near field. The long reverb, it focuses on the wider range. So here's a plate reverb.
Shindana Bamukabene. Bamukabene. Kupe mashika pamubili.
Okay, so that's the first reverb. Then the second reverb, that's the bigger one now.
Shindana Bamukabene. Bamukabene. Kupe mashika pamubili wavene.
So essentially what I do is I don't like leaving spaces in my mixes. I always try to fill in those spaces. So that's the whole vocal chain for Anahat. That's the vocal chain for Anahat. Yeah. So it's not always that you use the same vocal chain, depending on the type of music that you're doing. For Anahat, this is the best vocal chain that I could come up with because of the type of beat, the type of a song that was she came up with. So if I add the vocals to the beat, this is how it sounds.
Shindana Bamukabene. Bamukabene. Kupe mashika pamubili wavene. Awete ine typing. Ine nimbi quality. Ndatina fight. Abantu balasontera.
So that's the vocal for Anahat. Then there's Chester as well. Chester. Yeah. Chester. Yeah, with Chester, what he does when he's recording his vocals, he always applies his effects on the waves just here. So you really, because I've worked with Chester for a long time. He's literally my brother. Chester is my brother. I know how he records. When he's recording his vocals, he always add effects. Let me check if this thing is working. Okay, the vocal is okay. Whatever he's recording his vocal, he always applies his compression on the wave. Everything that he does, he applies it on the wave. Sometimes he even does with auto-tune. Yeah, so you really need to be careful when you're dealing with Chester's vocals, because he wants what he wants. Sometimes he wants what he wants, not what you really want as a producer. So if you hear his vocal, yeah. So if you come to Chester's, so Chester as well. This is a vocal chain. I didn't do much. The only thing that I did was a doubler. Chester Love doubler. Then CLLF 76, Decapitator, Reverb, and Valhalla. And I did EQ, did subtractive EQ, additive EQ, then also did the mid, CLA, also did the same, 14K, reduced here, then also reduced at below at 174. Reduced here because there was a lot of rambling. Then the SSL. This is Chester's vocal chain. It's his vocal chain. So even if you are, for example, you send a project, if you add this vocal chain, it will definitely go with this. So I know him that well. So DSR C6 here. Stereo delay, the delay I had to put it, so there was one delay here, then the maximizer. But this is just as vocal chain. Yeah, so imagine you coupe machikapa mubiri wabene akalimba kakwashimana takapwa musango. Yeah, I would have gone with more of compression, but the kind of music I wanted just to sound different on this track. I wanted him to sound different. Just love compressions. So basically that's the vocal chain for Anahat and Chester. So thanks for watching. I hope to see you next time. I'll be dropping more of these videos. Yeah, see you next time. Bamukabene, kupe mashikapa mubili